Right, well, welcome to all of you here. We are recording so that we can keep minutes and keep a record of the meeting, and maybe we can look back at it if needed. So welcome to you all here. You all know me. My name is Catherine. I am the officer of the Wyddfa Partnership. So I'm going to hand over to you, John. Thank you, Catherine. Welcome to you all here. And thank you for your patience while we were setting up for the hybrid meeting. It is a important way of developing meetings now to have, through hybrid meetings, because it obviously facilitates some of you to attend the meeting. And so hopefully that will work well for everybody. I was going to apologise for being late. I left the house at 8 a.m. this morning, but crossing Menai Bridge is quite a challenge at the moment. So I'm pleased that I've got here in time. The Parc Cenedlaethol microphone is muted at the moment. Simon Rogers has apologised. I haven't received any further apologies. Right, thank you very much. The room is muted at the moment, so the translator isn't able to hear. So parking and transport next. Angela and Catherine. Yes, I'll just share my screen now. There we are. I might as well just leave it like this. So we are all aware of this work that's ongoing at the moment, and it's been going on for quite a few years now. And one of the partnership's priorities really since launching the Wyddfa scheme. And Angela and I have been leading or joint leaders for this work, and we just felt we needed to give you a full update on where we're at now, as there are quite a few projects that have been taking place over the past year. So let me give you a quick overview of the background today. If this is going to work. Right. So as I said, it is a priority and has been noted in the Wyddfa scheme after a process of consultation with all of you on that scheme, and speaking with many local communities, so on, and partners and stakeholders, and the challenges were viewed as something that we as a partnership should get to grips with. So we went about commissioning a strategy, and Martin Associates were commissioned to lead on that work. And they noted the area of the project as the one you can see on the map. And as you can see, Ogwen has been included in the area because the Sherpa is operating in the area, linking both areas. So this is why it's been identified. Then the report, well, it was a comprehensive report, and the conclusions they arrived at was that the inner area, which was the area on the map, is a car-dependent destination. If you think of tourists and locals, that it's very difficult to come into the area without a car. And that there are expectations as well, that there is a culture of people just driving in and thinking they're going to find a place in that central area, that there are no other alternatives for them, and that was their mindset. And that undermines the bus service, and that small adaptations to the parking wouldn't really make much of a difference, that there needs to be a major change to create that difference we all want to see, and that there is a need to change people's social expectations and norms. And it's not an easy project for us. It's quite a challenge. Then the strategy, as you are all aware, I'm sure, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself here, but it is important for us all to be reminded of it. They mentioned that we needed marketing and communicating clearly, and that parking is reduced in the inner area, and that we reduce the cars to the hubs. Yes, so but 4 areas were identified, Bethesda, Llanberis, etc., were identified as gateways or hubs into the park, of course, if those communities wanted that to happen. So by doing that, there would be a need for the bus network to be much improved, and more services like bike hiring, and that to make it easy for visitors to move around the area. That isn't true at the moment. And that there are additional services developed in the those gateway areas, and that there are opportunities for new businesses to set up, to hire out bikes, for tour guides, demand responsive transport and baggage transfer, and that there is an access to local people, maybe free of charge, to the amenities, and maybe even a bus network. And the main thing they had was this assurance of being able to travel around, so that visitors are guaranteed that they arrive at Eryri and that they're going to be able to move around without their cars, with a reliable transport of a high standard, and that it would be innovative in that respect. The area would be innovative in that sense. So the vision was, and I'll just read this out quickly, was to provide a world-class sustainable tourism offer that allows visitors to enjoy the area in a way that protects the landscape and contributes positively to communities and the local economy. Visitors will be provided with high quality, affordable and accessible low carbon transport services and excellent information that will enhance their visit whilst reducing their impact on the protected landscape. Communities will benefit by seeing a reduction in car parking and traffic pressure, and improvements in transport services and investment in community facilities. The local economy and tourism businesses will benefit by capturing more visitor spend in the area. So that vision encompasses all the recommendations and hopes voiced. So there are benefits, clearly, to implementing this work. There are environmental benefits, economic benefits, and I know you are aware of those, so I won't go through all of them. Then, since receiving the review, we have presented to a number of groups and committees, haven't we, Angela, just to present the vision in a way. And I think it's important to note that the support to the vision has been very strong in each and every one of the meetings that we've presented in. We're not going to please everybody, of course, but everybody wants the same thing for the future. And the way we get there is yet to be discussed, of course, but certainly everybody is supportive to what we're trying to achieve. Then projects we're going to talk about now. Why these projects? Well, the projects have been noted in Martin's report, and we've been supported by Transport Wales. But there's a pot of funding, of course, with different subheadings, and they've have their headings in respect of what they want to spend their money on. So we've had to choose what was suitable for them in spending the money and what was suitable for us to do first. We had an investment in the first year of £430,000, and I'll break down what we did in that year with you in a moment. I'm starting with, well, I'm happy to do. Okay, well, 220 we consulted. That was the first stage. So we consulted with the 4 gateway communities to see whether they wanted this happening in their communities, whether they had any other aspirations, did they support the vision, what did they want to see as part of the vision. So that was one of the main important steps we took first in the 4 communities, and we got Transport Wales to do that. And we've reported back on the contents of that to you. So unless you've seen that or want to be reminded of the contents of the consultation, please get in touch with me and I'll go through it with you. So the pre-booking at Pen y Pass for parking, as you know, this happened, you know the story, during COVID. Before we went into lockdown, the cars were parked down all the way down to Pen y Gwryd, even before the staff arrived in the car park. So we had to put safety measures in place and close the car park jointly with the police and Gwynedd Council. And that's what we did. And very soon we did try out a pre-booking events on Eventbrite, just to try and alleviate the problems, and it worked quite well. We did it on 2 weekends in August during 2020, and then we went about with the support of Welsh Transport Wales to put a more permanent system in place with Just Park, and that's what we've got in place at the moment. So cycle network proposals and walking routes, improvements to those. Well, people have been able to voice their opinions on which routes they would like improving and what links they would like to see between areas in future. So that work is ongoing as well. And Pete and Adam and Angela have been involved with that work. Then public transport study, looking at the network and so on, that was started in 2020. And as you know, those improvements have taken place this year with the Sherpa network. And that's it. Handing over now to Angela. Well, there we are. Yes. So we've had more of an investment from Transport Wales, and Smart Parking have been appointed to set up sensors. I'm not sure if you've seen this, but they're in all our parking grounds at the moment. And the idea is that we can gather views and understand fully what kind of cars and traffic are coming in, how long they stay for, and also some interesting to me is whether they stay overnight as well. So an intention in the medium term with this is that it's showed on our website and that it enables people to make wiser decisions when they come into the area. I'll mention this afterwards as well. These are going to be displayed on signs when people come into the area. NCP style type of thing, but I'll talk more about that in a moment. And then next slide, please, Catherine. Transport Wales, as Catherine mentioned, has also carried out a public transport study, parking management study. So it's out of our hands, really, because this goes further than our area. And of course, the area we've designated as our inner area for the first study, that contacts that this links in with North Wales Metro, which is a huge project that Welsh Government are working on. So they are looking at developing in Bangor, Caernarfon, Bangor. I'm not sure whether you've had a consultation by email from Transport Wales. I'll share it with you all now if you haven't. It's just a general one. It's looking towards Bangor at the moment. And they're looking for ideas on how things can be developed there over the coming years in line with what people want to see for the area. So next slide, I think the bus service. Oh, right, this is this here now. The Sherpa'r Wyddfa. I don't know whether you've all seen this new branding, which you can now see around the place. Gwynedd Council and Transport Wales have worked on this. So the intention, of course, is to offer more services and a better integration with public transport systems in general. I was in Betws y Coed yesterday, for example, and Sherpa'r Wyddfa happened to be bringing people from the train in Llandudno, and that's the intention, to improve access, really, and that's a link with a bus there. So this is supposed to show people as well how they can catch the bus to the Wyddfa area. They've also started work on bus shelters in the area. I'm not sure whether you've seen the new bus stops at all that have popped up, and some have got live information in them. And we've been saying that this is something we've been waiting for years, really. It's made such a difference, and our staff in Canolfan Bedd Gelert have said it's made a difference for them as well. It actually tells you on the screen when the next bus is coming. So that's quite essential, I think. So Transport Wales have also invested into Heulog Newydd bus service, which is running from Bangor to Caernarfon every 2 hours, T10. It goes through the Ogwen area. And again, that's we have been working with partners in Ogwen that have filled the gap. They've filled the gaps then. From Bethesda up to Ogwen, every 30 minutes, they've got an electric vehicle to do this. And that's gone well over the past year. And we're hoping to do and have an even better service next year. What we've seen this year is that a lot of locals have been using the service, but not many visitors know about it. So working with Ogwen Partnership already on the communication scheme for next year, which is going to promote that service. And we have been on this as an area, and when we went on it, there were a few people in the bus stops just waiting for a bus to turn up, and they were confident that a bus would turn up in about half an hour, and that's exactly what we want to promote in the area. And one more thing as well, a lot of mountain leaders have been using that electric bus, and climbers as well. And you may remember in the initial consultations that Catherine and I led on, they were concerned about this strategy and how they would access it. So it's brilliant to see now that they are all now using that bus. So next slide. Oh, yes. So this is taking place this year. Transport Wales and ourselves have recognised that the signs around the area can be slightly misleading. Well, the intention was with the sensors that they had some funding to use for the VMS, what is virtual signage? Yes, digital signs that show live information in car parks. But after a chat between Catherine and myself, we thought, well, it doesn't really make sense if they come into the area and they can see that there are 2 spaces left, or they can see the car park names, doesn't really mean that much to people coming into the area. They don't know where these car parks are. And thank goodness Transport Wales has are now carrying out a scoping study across not only the Wyddfa area, but across the whole of the national park, which is very exciting to me. It shows maybe a lot about my life, but I'm very excited about it. And the intention is that by the end of this financial year, that scoping study will have been carried out. And then hopefully it will lead to work in the next year. So it will be something that will happen overnight, but it will be brilliant to get a group of people who are really going to think about this journey. Where are people coming from? What they can see in the area, and what will hopefully lead them to the right places, or the places we want to lead them to, and where we need to have more public transport. Next slide. Then I mentioned the active travel that was mentioned in the first consultation. This is ongoing, and there's a WellTag assessment. That's the Welsh case assessment that Welsh Government and Welsh Transport have to put together. So at the moment, they are routes that link with broader routes. So we've got Bethesda and Llanrwst, and they've been missed, if you like, over the year because they're quite difficult to link up. So we've presented Transport Wales with that challenge to make sure that all the routes link up together. Next slide. Oh yes, this is the final part of integrating the information from the sensors to show, well, it can be seen on the local authorities or the authorities' website, and it's the best option to see how people are going to see the most useful way of people going to get hold of the information by the next season. So one thing that's important, of course, is the nature of parking and transport in our area. We are not the partnerships responsible for it, so we have to work with local councils, and it's only a small part of everything the council are responsible for. So it's essential that a group leads on this, and we've been talking about this for over a year now, and thank goodness this group has been set up. And it does include Gwynedd Council, Conwy Council, ourselves, and Transport Wales. And Transport Wales leads this group because they've had experience of doing this before, so that's good. And in the different areas, of course, but it does link to other strategies such as Metro, North Wales Metro, and the visitor economy strategy, the really sustainable visitor economy strategy with Gwynedd Council and Conwy, hopefully in the long run. So as you can see on screen here now, they are focusing mainly on developing a delivery plan to make sure that this is all in line with everything else, which is evolving, if you like, in the area. And that's it, I think. Sorry about this. I don't know. Nope. So there we are. So we are working on these next steps at the moment. So continuing the development of the hubs and sorts of transfer to Transport Wales at the moment. It's all to do with investment of money. We don't have a huge pot of money at the moment, as you all know. And then we're working on travel projects, as we've mentioned, and it might be worth your while, if you don't already know, that we have a specific group meeting every month to look at what happens in Nant Gwynant at the moment. And I'm sure you're all aware that there have been serious problems with parking in that area. So we, as partners and the community, have been meeting regularly, and likewise the Ogwen area, the Ogwen partners and Conwy, so on, but they're all tied in with that. And it's really good to be able to touch base on a monthly basis and keep updated, really, because not enough of that has happened in the past. So trying to discuss with Transport Wales and looking ahead to the next financial year. And it's worth maybe mentioning, but I don't want to finish on a negative note, because I'm sure you'll all agree a lot of good work has taken place. But of course, we are going to see huge financial challenges over coming years with Welsh Government and Transport for Wales. So we're not confident at the moment that our funding is secured for the next financial year. We hope that'll be the case, and there's plenty going on in the area with transport, so they can view our project maybe as a flagship project, because they've done a lot of things already. But that just depends entirely what's available through Welsh Government. Again, there are exciting things coming up over the next months. There's a panel has been meeting here in the next month, from what I understand. And they're going to say a lot about transport will look in future for Wales, and also Transport Commission for North Wales is meeting at the moment. Catrin and Helen have been there to tell them about our project. So that's a really good thing for us, that we've been able to go there and put our case forward. So that's where we're at, and we're happy. Thank you very much, Angela. So before we ask for questions, could I just check that everybody who is online have heard the presentation and the translation? Thumbs up if you've had the translation and seen the presentation. Everything working? Good, good. Thank you very much, those who arranged then. Okay, so Molly has a hand raised, so let's take a question from Molly.
Thank you very much, Molly. Interesting and important comments there. Pete, can I just say one thing? The forums about 3 years ago discussed the west side of the Wyddfa, and we wrote to them asking them if they'd consider having a walker's ticket from Carnarvon. I'm just wondering if that's been a part of the discussion, because the west side includes Waenfawr, Mynydd Morfa, Moel Goch, etc. Gwellyn, Snowdon Ydger, and Rhyd and Bedd Gellert. If we could get them on board and develop a walker's ticket or a program for them, I think that would be beneficial. One of Martin's team got in touch. He was an expert on trains, etc. He got in touch with them. They have contributed to the report in the initial stages, but perhaps there should be another discussion with them, and especially if there are implications with Carnarvon and Bangor, that we discuss it further with them. I had a discussion with some, because there was a ticket for local people. But do we have they reduced the number of trains since COVID? So there may be some pressure on them financially, but it's certainly worth reopening those discussions now. Yes, the same with carrying bikes, really, because they don't usually. Okay, thanks, Pete. Do we have any other questions, Glenn? I think that's an important point. We all know that the consultation work was good work, but it's a while back now. And so keeping the communications lines open and the discussion live is really important. Gwyneth, just really quickly, if I may. It sounds promising and things are going well as far as the app is concerned. Smart parking, is that that's what you call the app, wasn't it? I've just put it into my phone. It's not coming up with very good reviews. People are saying that it's not working, but is that the one? Smart parking S3. Can you see this on the screen? I can't see the screen properly. That it's a bit misleading. Smart parking is the company who put the sensors in place and develop the technology on our behalf. But the name of the app is Partneriaeth Yr Wyddfa parking. Okay, it's come up straight away. It's got 5 stars. That's brilliant. Happy, Gwyneth? Very happy, John. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, thank you. I can't see any other questions at the moment. From that discussion, what's standing out is there is a need really for us as a partnership to continue with the discussion, because a lot of the lessons from the pandemic period and what we've learned from that is now starting to settle down. We're seeing things a bit clearer now with a bit of time. There are lots of questions that have been raised, and now we need to ensure that we continue to discuss these issues and consider the various options. Another point, though, that's come out from Molly and several other people, and Angela, you've already mentioned the issue regarding finance in order to support the continued momentum for this. At the moment, the Transport Commission for North Wales is working on evidence at the moment. And it looks to me as a partnership that we could recognise and be clear about the priorities that we're all clear on and submit that to the Commission in order to emphasise really if you could support these specific elements in order to move this project forward. There isn't an open consultation, but they are receiving comments. And as a partnership, there are a lot of different organisations here, and we'd be an important voice, and it would be good to use that voice to ensure that the good work that has come out of this would be reflected in the Commission's work. We can, of course, draft a letter and ask for comments from all of you. I'll note that as an action to be taken. Okay, moving on, therefore. The next item, Partneriaeth Yr Wyddfa. Over to you, Alec. And welcome. It's a bit late now, but welcome. It's good to be able to meet all of you. I recognise a lot of your names, but it's nice to put a face to the names. So, just to introduce Alec, really, we have just appointed Alec to the team. How long ago? 5 weeks, in fact. And he's just got to grips with his work really quickly and has gone in at the deep end, so to speak, and we're very glad to have him as a team of the partnership team. Thanks, Catherine. The purpose of this slide is to give you a bit of an update on where we're at with the project, the plastic-free project. Since I started 5 weeks ago, I've really gone into the plastic-free world, so to speak. And I've read so much on this subject, really, including the Sharing Packs Limited report on changing behaviours and the Cymdeithas Eryri one as well. I've also looked at worldwide campaigns which already exist, and I've read Zero Waste Scotland's report as well. And after having that context, it's been quite crucial for me to go out really and talk to local businesses in order to find out what's actually happening on the ground. That's been extremely interesting, and I've got a sense of their concerns and the opportunities in order to bridge towards being plastic free, and I've had a general response to the project as well. There are several things that have been sounded out already, and there are pretty clear themes. The limitations commercially and the problems with the supply of materials and products. But there are certainly things that we can do as an authority to start off, because we need to make sure that our house is in order first of all. And we'll do that in the form of an audit of our TICs, for example, and get rid of one-time use plastic, and talk about the schemes that we're hoping that businesses will take on as well. We have started discussing and taking research into some research and taking some recommendations from the share impact report, and there are some ideas that we've discussed ourselves. DRS means deposit return scheme. This is a scheme that will come out in Wales in 2024. It's been trialled in Scotland at the moment, but it's an idea that we may well adopt locally ourselves and create a network of businesses that offer a discount via these recycling machines. We're also looking at water stations. We'll be installing them in our car parks before next season. And we'll be recommending to businesses sign up to refill Wales water stations. I've also undertaken I've been in touch with this recycling schemes as well, and we're looking into the possibility of having local businesses adopting that. We want to engage with visitors by inspiring them with exhibitions. For example, on the right-hand side there, you can see the plastic there. And we may well install a banana cam on the summit of the Wyddfa to show how bananas actually rot over a period of time. We're also looking at innovation in the form of fungi eating plastics and enzymes. I'm undertaking research into plastic-free products that we can offer to businesses, such as stock ready for the Wyddfa range. So the next steps, after getting the feedback from local businesses and after getting the full picture, we will then be defining the criteria and the catchment zone. We will, like I said, be looking at the catchment zone where the plastic-free zone will include, and then we will have an award scheme for local businesses as well. After having a commitment from businesses, we will be creating a community out of them, a group, if you like, where we'll be able to share ideas, share concerns, and educate ourselves on bridging to being plastic-free. Perhaps we will have to rethink how we communicate with visitors on plastic, and we'll be defining new principles and also building a really strong engagement strategy that's innovative so that we inspire people to change their behaviours. I'll also be offering support to businesses on sourcing plastic-free sources and discussing with wholesalers and distributors so that they can extend their stock and deal with external companies and provide recycling services, etc. And basically, that's it. If you have any questions, can I just add, he's been here just for 5 weeks. he's just starting to scope the work. I'm really impressed with the work that you've already done. And I was hoping perhaps today, if you partners have any input today, anything that you'd like to raise with Alec, or if you have any ideas or anything you'd like him to look into, obviously get in touch with him, email him. Also, you've gone out and you met with on the Wyddfa as well. So he's got a good idea about the challenges that they are facing. And so he's just on the scoping stage at the moment. Thank you very much, Alec. Any questions? Charles?
Thank you very much. Just one thing that immediately sort of comes to mind is that you've got your obviously recycling plan and water stations and things like that, which is great. However, up on the top of it with with the cafe, water supply, in my view, is going to be problematical to get thing out there. And clearly, when I've been up there in the past, there's been a lot of Coke bottles being sort of dished out in the cafe. Obviously, they're plastic. What sort of plans have you got to try and change that habit? And obviously, getting transport and consumables up there. Clearly, plastic is going to be the cheapest, probably the easiest way to do that. Doing anything else, I suspect, is just going to add a significant cost, having to get it up in the train and everything. So what sort of ideas or plans or initial views do you have on that?
Do you want me to start first regarding the water? Well, we did think about this, Angela and myself, before Alec was in post, and we thought it would be brilliant if we could offer a water well on the Wyddfa so that people can refill their bottles, and it would fit in well with the scheme, and it would be a good publicity sense that we could do that on the Wyddfa. So we did have discussions with Welsh Government, Dŵr Cymru, Welsh Water. We also had a bit of money from Arloesi Gwynedd Wledig to create a tender so that we can get experts to look at the possibilities regarding harvesting rainwater and what the possibilities are with that in that location. There are places like Ennisonlli doing this similar type of things, but we didn't get any interest whatsoever in that tender. It went out to sell to Wales, and there were no inquiries or any interest in that. So we've parked that at the moment to one side. We thought maybe we're a bit too ambitious with that when you consider the environment. So we haven't moved that forward specifically. We've hit a bit of a wall. But if you do give the public water, it means that you have to have an officer from public health to test the water X amount of times a week, which would be very difficult for somebody from Gwynedd Council to do that on the Wyddfa. So we hit a wall, like we said. But Alec, I'll let you elaborate on your discussions with the cafe.
I'll just add to that, it's important to remember that the cafe is a separate business to us in a way. We don't have a say in what they sell. But of course, this challenge has already been addressed, and you've been successful in your discussions with them, and they are keen really to be on board with this idea of plastic-free Yr Wyddfa. But maybe there's just a little bit more thinking to do. But it's important to remember that we don't expect the whole area to be plastic-free, but we are moving to reducing the use of plastic, of course. So the title should be plastic-free. That's what we want as a title to hook people in, as it were. But over years, we can lead people into the right direction. Thank you. Right, well, it's really important that you planted a seed with people for the future and in the long term. And we've been trying to get people to change patterns, you know, with events and the use of plastic bottles, for example. Doing this for years, we're promoting the large tanks and so on. But as I said, around the Wyddfa itself, it's just to plant really the seed with the companies. It's a huge job to for them to step back from what they've been doing from 30, 40 years, but it is a huge job. So well done, you. Iestyn. Good morning, everybody. I apologize, I'm depending on a phone signal. You won't be able to see me. I just wanted to ask, clearly this is an important piece of work, and what I was intrigued to know is, what is your benchmark for beginning on this work? Where are we hoping to get to? And probably what the KPIs are, if you like. Well, yes, Alec is in post for 2 years. So hopefully by the end of the 2 years, we'll have those KPIs and we'll have a status, well, a plastic-free mountain in place, but we're working towards that at the moment. And we want to write or co-write, if you like, the criteria with everybody in the area, businesses and so on, because obviously there is a plastic-free status in the area already, but this is unique to the Wyddfa area, so it's going to be a unique thing for this area. And then, of course, in the long term, as a national park, we want to use whatever lessons we learn from this project and disseminate them with other areas as appropriate. So that's what we're working to at the moment. The KPIs really is to get at least to merge the park and hopefully to have a status in place. Is that right? Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you for the question, Iestyn. And I'm going to follow up on that maybe and ask, gaining a status is a clear indicator, but the status itself will cover a range of criteria, I would imagine. So it would be good to hear that information really about what the exact criteria to gain the status would be. If I could just add there, John, it's all important that we don't scare people at the outset and that we work with businesses. It's important that it's a collaboration between us as partners and businesses if we're going to succeed. So they should be written jointly as well with businesses in collaboration with them. Well, yes, as Pete said, the answer to this challenge has been a job for a lot of us over time, for over a long time. So, yes. I think we do need to start on this journey. Is it too early to ask, just in brief, about the percentage of the different components? Because there are different components to this project. Technical development, working with businesses, working with the public, and I assume also work on the ground and so forth. So is it too soon to ask roughly how the split lies at the moment, or how it will be? Well, just a little bit. We're just coming to understand really what people in the area want at the moment and what people are telling Alec, and just, as Catherine said, for everybody to make sure that we don't scare them off, you know, that we're working towards plastic free, and there is support for that. And we've sort of agreed from January on, haven't we, to have a work programme then for Alec based on the findings really over the first months. And of course, Alec will attend the meetings then. Thank you. May I just check, Yestin's hand is still raised? Is it a legacy hand? No, it's not. I was just keen really to understand what our baseline will be. What will the figure you preempt will be for the plastic free? Well, simply in agriculture, the use of antibiotic has been a problem, and it's something they want the industry to move away from. And since 2014, the use of antibiotic has been reduced from 55%. So what is our measure at the moment? And what do we say the path is going to be to get to the plastic free Wyddfa? I know plastic free is the aim in the long run, but we need to set a path out, don't we, how to get there? So just asking around that, is any work being done around our starting point maybe? Yes, and that's exactly what Alec is doing at the moment. And I'm sure there will be some figures put in, but at the moment, you're just getting to understand really what is practical for people and how people can do it as well with support. And in terms of agriculture, we have spoken with Welsh Government. We've raised this already, and we've said people have used things. Sorry, that was unclear for the translator. And whether there are any alternatives that can be used, that we can, how we can support people with the things they use. But we're not sure about that yet. But it's definitely what we are aiming to do. Thank you. Moving on. Next item on the agenda is Partneriaeth update. There's a USB stick that's just being inserted now. I don't know whether the speaker is going to pick you up. Come over here if you like. Don't come too close. It won't work if it's too close. So I'm Dan. This is Dan, Conservation Senior Officer. I think it's still loading. I hope you know about Partneriaeth Yr Wyddfa already, but if not, there'll be some information here for you. So what exactly is Partneriaeth Yr Wyddfa? It's a partnership scheme between the authority and Cymdeithas Yr Wyddfa, National Trust, and we're in the third year now. So we set off in 2020 during lockdown. So the aim of this scheme is to get volunteers out in the most popular areas, the honeypot areas, if you like. Yep, but this isn't just a Wyddfa, but it's a broader as well. And this means that during the bank holidays in April, up until the beginning of September, volunteers are out every Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So why exactly do we need this additional support from volunteers? Again, if we think back to the lockdown period during COVID, I'm sorry about that. I'm thinking back now to the lockdown period. There was a lot of concern after that quiet period that about the high number of visitors once that lockdown period came to an end, and that's why we additionally engage the services of the additional volunteers, and this is why the scheme is still going. So you could suggest so there are more people on staycations at this time, as people haven't been abroad during the COVID period, and a suggestion may be that people are visiting the national park for the first time and didn't know what to expect. So we got volunteers out to provide information. So this map shows the various areas where volunteers are out on a Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So it's important to recognise that it's not just Yr Wyddfa, and this map, well, there are many paths as well, and here. So going back to the transport map, there is certainly a link between that and what you can see here. Down in Cadair Idris and Bala as well. You saw in that first image, you saw Llyn Tegid, which was very busy. And what we can see is a correlation between the areas who see a high number of visitors and the problems that derive from that. So we visit some areas more consistently than others, maybe Llanberis. That is an area we see very often, at least weekly, whilst areas such as Bergelert and Llindinas, we don't go there as often. Next slide, please. This is just a snapshot of the sort of things you see. You're all aware through this partnership of the things that arise as a result of a high number of visitors. The suggestion that it goes past the capacity we have in Yr Wyddfa. Next slide, please. So here are two main elements. You'll see the first three photos. This is where our volunteers are out on the paths and having a discussion with visitors. And there's information about transport and which routes to take and to turn back on mountains. And this is something that's been carrying on already. With these volunteers, we also went to different areas outside of the Wyddfa area, areas further down, and volunteers also towards the summit. We were concentrating on car parks as well. And you'll see the bottom 3 photos. You'll see an element of maintaining paths and building paths happening there. This hopefully working with the National Trust as well as the National Park. And this happens at least twice a month. So work that isn't quite as glamorous, perhaps, clearing drains and so on, but it's work that does mean that the paths continue to be in good order. And we do litter surveys like this. And so on each day that we count the number of bags as well. And so the data on that maybe could fit in with what you need for the plastic-free Wyddfa as well. So next slide. So this goes hand in hand with the practical work. We don't only want to be in a position where we're dealing with a problem once it's on the ground, but working with partnership with the authority to give out messages, try and focus on positives, encourage people to use public transport and linking up with the work that's been taking place, improving the Sherpa system, which appears to be working very well from what we've been doing on the ground. And the messages with some of the problems we do encounter with dogs and camping and making sure that much of this work is done by volunteers and, if you like, having people's faces on adverts. So these adverts are coming up on phones or Instagram or Facebook when people search for Eryri so that they can see these adverts. So these figures are for last year, so they show the number of people that have clicked on the link and seen this message. So these numbers, hopefully, you'll find are impressive, and that this message has gone through to a lot of people and have made a difference. So more and more people are travelling out with their boards everywhere. Sound has gone in the main room. Next slide, please. Just a couple of figures for you about the scheme. Under the outputs for the volunteers, we've got far more detailed breakdowns as well around the paths, and we are trying to separate the recycling and other aspects. So next slide, please. So if we think back about when this scheme started after lockdown, an important part of the scheme was that we wanted to provide work. And I'd like to thank local mountain leaders, many of them volunteers. Some are volunteer wardens, so we wanted to give them something back, but for them to use their skills and pass on their knowledge to our volunteers. So many of them are knowledgeable. So this is Lisa, I'm one of 8. Lisa also volunteered her time. Next slide, please. So very keen that we give these volunteers something back, not just take from them. So we've been working in this project is to train volunteers, and the photo on the top left is in the Betws-y-Coed Visitor Centre. And what we were trying to do here was some kind of volunteer training to prepare them before they go out. We held this training for groups, so they would know what to expect. So not only training, but there was an award as well for those volunteers taking part. You see this in the centre photograph there, 7 volunteers were able to do mountain leader training with us as well. Next slide, please. So last year and this year, we had a survey just to see what the feeling was amongst volunteers, and it was positive, 97% last year, and saying they would volunteer again next year. And those who said that they weren't actually going to be in the area. So I'm sure it would have been 100% otherwise. We must be doing something right. Next slide, please. So it is important to acknowledge this as a partnership project. And it's one of the huge strengths, really, of this scheme, to working the core team. They had weekly meetings, and we made the use of the volunteering software, Mindpack, that enabled us to gain benefits and make sure that all the staff were singing from the same hymn sheet using that software. And everyone was making use of the skills within these different organizations. And what we certainly saw was that it fitted in very well with Llysgenad. People came in through that, many of them being mountain leaders, so it fitted in very well with volunteer skills. Also, although these are clearly the 4 main partners within the scheme, there are also other partners on a lower level with local people, whether it's local cafes, landowners perhaps. So it's easy for us to measure the scheme in relation to how much litter we gather, but what's more difficult to measure are these chats we have with people at a grassroots level, and the impact that those have had. Thank you very much. Quick snapshot. Thank you very much. Any questions? Pete? Thank you, Mary-Kate and Dan. Just like to thank you very much for what you've been doing, both of you, during COVID on Eryri. It's fantastic. I can't really put it into words what you've done. People have no idea how much work goes into this, behind the scenes, to organize it all. And sorry, that was unclear for the interpreter. I was going to say exactly the same thing. And also, I've told you this before, but you are aware of the service Ben Horton's carried out. And he's noted that there's less litter this year compared to last year. But that's probably because of the very difficult work that you and the volunteers have been doing out there. And I think it's really important that that's been noted. And I hope you saw that you've had quite a bit of response in the media as well, in the press. And the work with volunteers has been so important to help us in the area. I've got one more thing. Molly and Simon Rogers from National Trust met with Ben yesterday, and because that work has come to an end after 3 years with the 3 different partners, and we're really keen to continue with what he's been doing. And perhaps if there is an opportunity to tie that work in to Partneriaeth Yr Wyddfa and maybe train the volunteers to be able to carry on. So if you see an opportunity there, maybe it's a good idea. Any other questions? Thank you, John. So the first question I have, I'd like to talk about the use of the name Wyddfa and Eryri. About a fortnight ago, the authority passed about a fortnight ago how they were going to use the words in English. So the official guidelines we have now, but this has been happening in the Wyddfa partnership in an organic sense, really. It's been happening naturally since the scheme was set up. So it doesn't really affect how we use the words at all, because we already do so. But this is what we've had now from the authority, is to use Yr Wyddfa verbally and in writing, in most cases in English, Yr Wyddfa, and then Snowdon in brackets, where we need to ensure that visitors can find the information in terms of SEO, optimizing search engines, and so forth, because we still want them to be able to find the information. So it's all important with communicating with them, in the hope in a few years that the name will become more common and that people will get to know the names and will search for those in time. But for the time being, as a sort of transition period, we'll be using Snowdon in brackets on the internet and digitally and so on. And also Eryri in the same manner. Eryri, Snowdonia then in brackets, Eryri National Park verbally and in writing, and Eryri National Park Snowdonia, similar in both cases, really. So these are the guidelines we've received, just for your information. What I have here second is Partneriaeth. As you know, Partneriaeth, well, has said now since beginning of November, they've changed, well, the pay and display are back, and we have to do this because of the change in the bus timetable. It's difficult for us to encourage people to park in Nant Peris unless a bus is going to be coming there for 2 hours. It's easy in the summer because the bus is there every 15 minutes, but a bit more difficult with a winter timetable. So we need to, that's the reason we have to go back to the pre-booking system there. And it is quieter, obviously, of course. But we'll be going back to the pre-booking in the spring, in line with when the council announces the new timetable for the summer. So that's the sort of change that we'll be making until the timetable's been improved for the winter. That's the hope anyway. So Gwyneth mentioned the app, didn't you, Gwyneth? And we're in terms of the parking, and the sensors are now down in our car parks around Wyddfa and in Betws y Coed as well. So there's an app that people can search to see whether the car park is full and so forth. We launched this late in the summer, so we haven't yet had feedback and we haven't really seen how it works, to be honest with you. So next summer, we'll be testing to see whether it's working, and we'll be reviewing it. But what's going to be useful to us now is the data. So we can see how people use the car parks, and then we'll be able to see the data, and it'll help the authority to think about what we may need to change, waiting times, so forth, in line with what people want. So we'll be looking closely at that over the winter and seeing whether we can learn any lessons from how they are used. So there were staff, I'm sitting on a group, the UK Transport Group, that's what it's called, and it includes officers involved in parking and transport in the other national parks throughout Britain. It's very useful to see where they're at. And I'm very pleased to be able to say that we are one step ahead than many of them. But again, they do excellent things and we are learning from them and they can learn from us. And then they came over to Eryri for the last meeting in Betws y Coed. We took them on a site visit. Then we had some car parks from Scotland, Dartmoor, the Lakes District, and it was good to show them. And it was a beautiful day in the autumn, and it was lovely to show them the projects. We took them to Pen-y-Pass, Llanperis. We took them to speak with the Ogwen Partnership in Bethesda as well. And it was great because we worked with the Ogwen Partnership and we led them around. We took them around on the electric bus as well. So they really enjoyed that, travelling around Eryri on the electric bus. So my next point is the Eryri Ambassador, something we're very pleased about. Lysgenad Eryri, we've worked on it now for 2 years, and it's going from strength to strength, really. It is training, it's online training for those of you who aren't sure, that include modules that reflect the national park levels, which we have 798 ambassadors now who have reached a level, and of those we have 661 silver, 591 of those have reached the gold status. So it's encouraging, and also we are creating a way for people to retain their status, because we wanted to keep the content to be modern, not dated. That you can see people with badges 10 years old, so we wanted to make sure we kept the momentum going. So those who have done the gold level have to requalify in order to keep their status for the following year, and 200 requalified last year. So we need to encourage that a little bit more, to get more of them to do that. So we are trying, aren't we? So there is work to be done. We are reviewing all the modules, and we are creating a new requalification module for 2023. So we'll be sending further encouragement to the gold ambassadors to do that, so that they can retain their status for the next year. Now, the new authority staff, well, any new recruits will have to do the course to a bronze level, which is a good thing, because the compulsory modules are a help to understand how the authority works and so on forth, and the modules on the Wyddfa. So they are a great help to new staff, so they have to do that now. Then we have a video. I'm not sure if it's, have you shared it, Aled? Have you shared with the sound? Not sure how it works. I'll try. I just have to click on share sound.
That's it, really. I didn't introduce that video at all, but it's part of a series of videos that we've created. We've asked them the ambassador to be part of different types of videos like this. It's good for us to be able to praise it through them rather than us praising it ourselves. It's available bilingually on YouTube. Caroline's been learning Welsh since she's been living here, and we have Plas Coch B&B in Llanberis who have also done a video, and Aaron from Pizza and Paint as well in Llanberis. So we'll be sharing those videos over the winter to try and encourage different businesses to take part. With regard to ideas about new modules, we asked the ambassadors as well what they'd like to see, and they were very keen to have a specific module on transport, because people are constantly asking how do I get from A to B, and they said it would be brilliant to have a simple module on transport. Some also mentioned that they'd like to know more about agriculture in the area. So I may well get in touch with you, Gwynedd and Iestyn, to see if we could create a module or cooperate with somewhere like Llandrillo College, because these people have asked. You can come in later on if you have any comment on that. 2 weeks or so ago now, because we weren't able to meet our ambassadors at all. You may well know them already, but we haven't been able to see them throughout COVID because all of the training has been online. But we were keen to thank them for being ambassadors and for undertaking all of the modules. So we arranged a week of events where we had discussions. Pete gave a discussion, Ben Porter took people on a wildlife walk in Ganllwyd. Naomi gave an introduction and presentation on heritage in the Ysgwrn. We were also going to have a presentation under the stars in Cregennan, but the weather wasn't suitable, unfortunately. We did offer the events for free to the ambassadors. We were quite disappointed with how many showed an interest. Don't know if it was the time of year or if we had too many events on, but then we opened it up to the public and then we had a bit more interest. So the numbers that attended varied, but on the whole we had good events. Everybody who came to the events benefited a lot. So that's something that we'll be developing again. That is holding events and meeting ambassadors face to face now that we can do. Thank goodness for that. So we're working on this scheme jointly, as you know, with plans across Wales now. Denbighshire, Conwy, Gwynedd Council are going to launch theirs. Anglesey are going to launch theirs. Ceredigion, Carmarthenshire, Brecon Beacons, they're all going to come under the Wales Ambassadors flag. And we've worked on a code of conduct, not that we don't want to be too heavy-handed with our ambassadors. We still wanted it to be perceived as something friendly and positive, but we did get some incidents where there were some ambassadors out there on the mountain saying we're allowed to be here because we're the ambassadors of Eryri, which is obviously out of order and not true. So we just wanted to emphasize the fact that they don't have any additional rights. They're there as experts to be whiter than white, if anything, and do everything above and beyond. So there's a simple code. It's very friendly. We'll be putting that on the website, and when the ambassadors get their emails to congratulate them, we'll be referring to the code in that as well and a link to it. Also, the Ambassadors Wales, that is the flag that includes all of the plans, won an award, that is Go North Wales Tourism Awards, under the Go Skills category, and we're very proud of that. The ceremony was about 2 weeks ago, and so we'll be making a statement and sharing a bit more information about that soon. Ben Porter's survey has also been published. It was the third following year now. That's also on the authority's website if you haven't seen it already. And the Wyddfa Path app, this is the one that Caroline mentioned. It works totally offline and it follows you as you walk up. We launched this in 2020 on Apple and Android. In 2020, 1,985 apps were downloaded. By 2021, 8,021 had been downloaded, and this year there's 10,912 that have been downloaded of this app. So it's increasing. Now we've recreated the app so that it's totally accessible and is in line with the Accessibility Act, with text. Anybody with visual impairments or hearing impairments, say, we'll be reviewing it by the next season. And if you remember, it is of course an opportunity for us to convey messages within the app. So if you have anything specific that you would like us to include, please let me know. So that's it basically from me anyway. Thank you very much, Catherine. You've been really busy. Any questions on that update? I can't see the chat. John can't see the chat box. Are there any other matters anyway? Glenn?
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick one. You basically answered my first question. Was this going to be rolled out to the other national parks in Wales, which obviously it is, which is great news to hear. Secondly, you mentioned about agriculture and everything else. That's great. All I would say on that one is, and I'm sure I haven't seen the syllabus, so obviously I might already be saying something that you've already captured, but clearly when you're talking about access to agricultural land, it would be very useful in my book that they actually stick to footpaths and actually respect the farmer's land that they're crossing, because after all, he has to make a living and it's his shop floor. And I think that is a point, especially with dogs and stock and all that sort of thing. It just needs to be emphasized time and time again that someone actually owns that land and is trying to make a living off it.
Just to add to what Charles has said, I know there's an agriculture module in there, even if it would be an agriculture timetable for the year and a different season, what's happening on the land, and other important issues such as health and safety. There are lots of big machinery on farms these days, so you need to be careful. Even if we covered those two aspects, I think it's awareness really, and the things that Charles mentioned as well, especially dogs on a lead. But we can discuss this further, of course. We do have the countryside code, and we encourage people to keep a dog on the lead through the sustainable tourism model, but there's definitely room to raise awareness of that again and create a specific module on agriculture. I'll be in touch for sure, Gwyneth. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. A very interesting discussion. I've attended a few hybrid meetings, but this is the first successful one. And it is an important point because it facilitates us to have more sustainable meetings and allow you to on the screen to be a part of the screen if you're far away. It's a really positive thing. So thank you very much for the arrangements and making sure that it worked. And thanks to everybody who's contributed to this. So thank you very much. Thank you, both of you. Thank you very much, everybody. Do you have an idea when the date of the next meeting will be? I'm not sure if you realised that Catherine Glynn is expecting a baby, so we wanted to congratulate her. On behalf of the whole partnership, congratulations. So she'll be starting her maternity leave in March. So we'll try to meet before that, and hopefully we'll be able to appoint somebody to cover the fantastic work that Catherine does. You really have been busy. So thank you ever so much for all the work. Thank you. Till the next time then. Thank you very much. Bye.